Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. I am Father George Ehusani, and I have with me in the studio once again my friend Jerome James Tsakma.
Yes.
Jerome James Tsakma is a retired geoscientist, project manager from Mobile Nigeria Producing. Mobile Producing Nigeria.
Yes.
Because Mobile Producing is global, and so this one is Nigeria.
No, Mobile Producing Nigeria is a local affiliate of ExxonMobil.
Oh, of ExxonMobil.
Yes.
Okay. Great. So you spent over 30 years. You spent 30 years working with Mobile.
Almost 30 years.
And before then, you spent some 5-6 years.
6 years with the university.
University of Maiduguri.
Yes.
Good. And
that includes the period I went for my.
They sponsored you. It was in-service training.
Yes.
So you are a teacher. You spent some first part of your life as a teacher. You were retained after your studies. You were retained by the university.
Yes.
And that's because you did well, not only in learning but in character.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. By the way, because I'm about to discuss with you what is the way forward for Nigeria. You were in the university. You know that university certificates used to be, our university haven't found you worthy in learning and in character, hereby awards this certificate.
That's correct, yeah.
The dimension of character, is there still emphasis on the dimension of character?
Yes, it is still emphasized. While I was working, for instance, your technical knowledge can get you the job.
But what will keep you the job
is the character. Yeah, and the level you can reach
is your character.
So the IQ gets you the job.
Okay.
But the EQ, the emotional intelligence,
helps you keep
the job and rise. Yes. And I think that's what's missing in today's youths. They emphasize more on the technical or whatever the knowledge they have, but they lack the emotional intelligence piece of it for the most part.
Now,
emotional intelligence also emphasizes, if you want change, it needs to start with you.
Okay.
And you could have the best leader in the world, but if the individual citizens don't believe that the change really needs to start from within them, start with them, nothing will change. I mean, we have our president that is known to be incorruptible, that has demonstrated that through his years. But
look at the people surrounding themselves with now.
That's not what we see happening in our country. And he meant well. He still means well. But the change that we at Nigerians talk about, the youths talk about, everybody in Nigeria, if you see a cluster of people discussing politics, they are lamenting about what's going on in our country. But the same people, ask them what they did yesterday, what they're going to do tomorrow, what they're doing today. In the open, would they be proud of it?
Now, in the last segment of our discussion, we reflected on your role models growing up.
Yeah.
And you said it is achievers, especially in the academics. You looked at these young people who went to the university and who did well and came out and then are living their life. People whom you admired were people who were working hard, especially in academics.
Yes.
Then we also discussed, as a secondary school student, for example, people who went in high school who got maybe A, B in maths physics.
Yeah, people that came out distinction.
With the distinction in WAEC as well.
Yeah.
They were the people you admired.
Oh yes.
Now, people that have been admired are mostly entertainers by our young people. Entertainers, rich politicians, rich business people. And you said in the last segment that there was a seismic shift from about between 1979 and 1983, when politicians came and they began to throw around big money, people now began to admire those who can employ the professors, who can employ the doctors and the lawyers. How do we get back? I mean, see where it has brought us.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think many Nigerians today recognize that we can't continue the way we are.
Yes, correct.
But
it needs the participation of everybody.
Yeah, the ship is sinking.
Yeah.
Okay, so what must we do? Because when you say it needs participation of everybody, change has to begin from some critical mass. It cannot begin with the 200 million.
I understand. But what I'm trying to say is why I say change begins with the individual is because if today I have choices to make today, right? If I'm in a position if I'm employed by government or by I'm even employed in church.
Yes.
Wherever you're working,
there are choices.
Mm-hmm. Do I choose to cheat? Do I choose to do the right thing or do the wrong thing?
I agree with you.
So that's what I'm saying. I agree that not everybody, even in developed countries,
it's not everybody.
It's a small percentage that drive the change.
Correct.
But but the problem in Nigeria is that even the small percentage that want to drive the change, are they given the right platform? Are they given the right opportunities?
Under the circumstance where we find ourselves in, you and I have agreed that it is not a hopeless situation.
No, it is not.
That something can be done.
Yes.
So let us begin to itemize what can be done to turn things around and by who. I was reacting when you say, it begins from everybody, and I say, no, it can't. Let's not put it on everybody, because if you put it on everybody, it's like putting it on nobody.
No, that's correct. You're right. Yeah.
So, what is the role? Let's begin by saying, what is the role of the teacher in a village, of the pastor and priest in a village? What is the role of the parent? Because that's very important. Of the parent. So, if things are going to change, we need to assign responsibilities.
That's correct.
That's what we need to do.
So the role of the parent, starting with the parent,
yes,
is to showcase positive values to the child.
Correct.
Be an example of what is good.
That is where beginning from me is now important.
Yes.
Be an example of what you want your child to.
Yeah. For instance, if you are smoking and drinking in the house in front of your child, the child would think that those are life values.
Correct.
If your salary is, if you are working as a teacher but you live like a very successful businessman, your child will think
cheating is correct.
Yes. Or that government money is your money. The child will get to know about all this. So what examples are you setting for the child? So it starts from the home. What is the value of work in the home? Mm-hmm. Do you have to be productive to get what you need? Or does it come freely to you?
Yeah.
Most of the problems our youth have is because they didn't have to work the way we did when we were young.
So the hardship you had growing up,
it's not
children don't have it.
It's not what my children are having to endure. So it starts with the home, and then the examples they see, not only from
the immediate family,
but from the community. When I was growing up, they were, I remember my mother telling me one thing, and it's when, in those days we used to go to farm as a family, as a group. People come to help out, and part of what we enjoyed then was the locally brewed brukutu, which is
from Guinea corn.
Yeah, from alcoholic beverage from Guinea corn, and I took a little bit of it and got a bit tipsy. So I went and told my mother that this is what happened to me. You know what my mother told me? She didn't chastise me. She didn't do anything. She simply said, "Do you know this man in the village?" She mentioned the name of somebody that was perpetually drunk, a drunkard in the village. And do you know your headmaster? Of course she knew I knew, but she wanted me to just... So your headmaster does not drink or smoke. And look at how he's respected
in the village,
in our hometown. The drunkard is laughed at all the time. You can choose
which one you want
to be. And of course, it was obvious.
It was clear that you would choose to be like the headmaster.
Yes, and today I don't drink, I don't smoke. From that very moment, my mother told me.
Because children are very impressionable.
Exactly, I aspire to be educated like my headmaster. So it starts from the home, and then what's valued by society. Like I told you about the seismic shift, it is actually a societal shift, right? What is valued? Is it education? Is it productivity? Individual productivity that becomes wholesome
you had a mother,
wholesome impact.
You had a mother who had time for you. And when you went and told him about this alcohol and whatever, she sat you down and gave you this scenario and you made a choice.
Yeah.
A lot of mothers today, not just mothers and fathers, are not available for the children. So we have a problem.
Yeah.
People give birth to children and abandon them to nannies and are away looking for money. How do we overcome that problem?
Yeah, I think we need to remove money as the god that it is today, with a small g. Money is everything in our society now, rather than being upright, rather than being disciplined, rather than being educated. And I think the emphasis needs to shift back to where the small things, the character building elements are the ones that are emphasized.
So it will mean that if it means that, let's get practical now, that instead of somebody living in Maitama or in Parkview in Lagos or in Maitama in Abuja, that the person can accept to live in Surulere because he cannot pay to live in Parkview, or he can accept to live in Apo because he cannot live in Maitama, just so as to have time for the children.
Yes, because it all depends on what the impact the parents have made to model a child. It's not always true, but for the most part. And that is why if you look at successful people today in any sphere of life, be it government, business, academia, are populated by children or people that were children in poorer settings, people that were not well-to-do.
Many times children of teachers, of elementary school teachers.
Exactly. So, and that tells you that,
it is not the quantum of money.
No, it's not the money. Money has its place. And I won't deny that I don't want to have money. But it needs to be that you live within your means. I think the problem with Nigeria today is people like to live beyond their means. You see, if I drive a car today, a young man would think that, I should be able to drive this car.
Even though he has not gone through the stages we have gone through in life.
Yeah, he refused to see one side of things, that I have worked 36 years to own that car.
And he is coming from
school for many years before that.
He is coming from school and he wants to use that car.
Yeah. So if and that is the problem. There's not gestation period.
Yeah. and deferred gratification is not being properly taught.
No. And when what you read today is the number of cars, for instance, which kid got. I think it was last week, it was in the papers. Expensive cars. But you ask yourself, how many Nigerians that have worked so hard, that are professors, doctors, engineers,
headmasters for 35 years.
For 35 years, even government workers, people working in
Civil service,
as state and and
Yeah,
federal
a
level, how many of
society-
them could afford that? And yet the society glorifies.
Yeah, and when we say a society that glorifies an entertainer who entertains for one night and earns more money than a professor earns after 35 years of work, that needs to be looked into.
Yeah, yes, and I think it starts beyond looking at ourselves. The leadership need to enforce prioritize. What do we prioritize as a country? We need to get back to the glory days of Nigerian education being, applauded around the world. When somebody graduates from a primary school, secondary school, or university in Nigeria, he is at par with
Anybody
anywhere in the world.
And then today we have Finland.
Yes.
Finland is showcased as having the best educational system in the world today.
Yeah.
And to become an elementary school teacher, the competition that is in it, to become a high school teacher, not to talk of becoming a university professor, and it is the most respected profession,
Yes.
education.
Yes.
So Finland is setting itself up to be on top of others in the world of tomorrow
Yeah.
by investing heavily in education
Yes.
today.
Yes. Because all of us, whoever is the Nigerian holding any position or being seen to be successful today, is so because of education. That is the truth.
So why are our leaders continually denigrating education? Because you have legislators, you have people who are in the top level executive positions and legislators at all levels, and then you have people who are in businesses and so on, and they see what is happening to ASU, for example, and I don't see any mass action coming from. Many legislators have been quiet all this while for 7 months that ASU has been on strike, as if they don't understand what ASU is talking about. I am shocked that there's no constellation of forces to say whatever adjustments we have to do in Nigerian governance, we need to sort out university education and education at all levels.
Yeah, I think you said it all. That needs to happen. And why it hasn't happened, I really don't understand. Because until you know the details on both sides, you really can't.
Well, I mean, I am aware.
But to the layman,
yes,
to the average Nigerian, the government has the capacity to solve ASU issues.
Yeah, clearly.
And the government has the capacity to fund the university system. Back to the glory days where a poor man's child,
can go
like
to
school. I lost my dad when I was 9 years old, and yet I was well educated through the Nigerian educational system at that time.
Yeah.
And we still have the capacity to restore education back to its glory days as a country. So it's just for us to prioritize it and say, look, for instance, when Ghana was really, the
Down.
time of Ghana must go.
80, 81, 82, yeah.
The time of Ghana must go, right? The main thing, I was, when I was doing my master's, my roommate was a Ghanaian.
Okay.
And he told me one thing, that anything could go wrong in Ghana.
But not education.
But not education.
I mean, we saw it now. We saw the teachers that came from Ghana.
Yeah. He said the country puts education as number one. In those days, Ghanaians used to come to Nigeria to attend university. Mm-hmm. Cameroonians used to come. When I was in the university, we had Cameroonian students, we had Ghanaian students, and we had Ghanaian teachers and all that. Today, we're sending our children to Ghanaian institutions and pay in hard currency.
Yes. Yes.
Well, yeah. So, and I think it's not beyond us as a country to change things. We can still produce the Chinua Achebes, the Wole Soyinkas.
Yes, we have them.
The Chike Obis.
We have them.
The Jiburi Aminos.
Yes, the Awojobis.
Awojobis. We still have
the Bala Usmans.
The Bala Usmans. We still have the capacity to produce those people from amongst the children we have today.
It's amazing. Not long ago, I think it's earlier this year, a committee was set up to look into the condition of service of judges in Nigeria. After the exit of the last chief judge, on account of the protest by Supreme Court judges over their poor conditions of service and poor salaries, a committee was set up to look into. And I am told that part of the recommendation of the committee is that judges should earn, Supreme Court judges should earn salaries in millions.
Yes.
Then there was an argument, because ASU strike had started at that time. Well, if you are going to pay, if you now agree that you are going to pay judges, let's say 2-3 million per month because you recognize what they are doing, what about people who taught them law?
Yeah.
How can you abandon the people who taught them law to earning pittance when you can now see that it is important to pay judges this kind of salary? So, teachers are the fundament, the basis.
I mean, to me, I think the best foundation for any country to develop is education.
It's education.
I mean, everywhere. If you read the history of any developed country today,
it is their teachers.
Yes, the paradigm shift was really a zealous focus on education, and that starts with well-motivated teachers at every level. Because when I was in primary school, for instance, my primary school teachers were the most respected in society.
They were respected, and they were comfortable. They were not beggarly.
No, they lived above the fray. Of course, they were better than people that were living on subsistence, level, farming or
they were much better.
They were much better.
And my primary school teachers all built houses.
Oh yes,
from their primary schools.
Oh yeah, my headmaster built the best house, the one I was referring to earlier, in the village at that time.
Yeah. So it means that in colonial and post-colonial, immediately post-colonial times, teachers in this country were not beggarly.
No, and they didn't. It was purely their salary.
Yes, there was no shwa.
No, it was purely their salary. It's how they managed their salary that made a difference.
Yes. So we must pay attention to education.
Yes.
UNICEF has a minimum requirement of 26% of national budget for education. And I'm told that what Nigeria invests on education, which is part of the reason why they are not able to meet the ASU demand, is less than 7%. If Nigeria is going to make any major shift, we have to invest heavily in education. There is no excuse. In spite of our population, there's really no excuse.
The reason why we're not doing well, but politics is not growing in Nigeria in terms of democracy, it's not growing in terms of development, it's because the incentive structure in our society, especially after military rule, works against both productivity as well as decent politics. So politics hinders economic development. Poverty reinforces the perverse politics that hinders prosperity. So you can see a vicious circle, exactly.
People have lost trust, lost confidence, lost even hope that you will ever get a government that will serve the people. We are told what politics is. We've reached a stage now where the word politics is a dirty word. Means it's almost like armed robbery.
Exploitation of the people.
Yes. And so, if you want to escape poverty, find your way into the corridors of power, and then you can use it for your own good. Whereas what Jesus would have said is, there is poverty in the land, there is suffering in the land, let's do something about the poverty.
Yes.
Not escape it.
And leave the majority of the people in poverty.
You are a politician, you see how bad the schools are run and the universities are not operating. You extract your children from this rot. and leave the schools the way they are.
That is not what leadership.
We talk about importation of arms. For every single arm that enters, that you apprehend, I believe that given the porous nature of the borders, given the weakness of the institution, that so much more arms get in that are not detected.
Yes.
Otherwise, why are the cattle headsmen going about with AK-47s quite happily? I mean, I don't understand one particular example why you would have headsmen wreaking so much havoc, and government
the situation cannot be
to condone
arrested
and tolerate and assume that there is some sort of affinity between government and even the marauding headsmen. So it's a worrying thing. The country is descending into crisis. Government is becoming less effective, less ability to deal with issues, and the crisis continues.
I went to a federal school. I went to Federal Government College in Loring. And most of the people who came from the north, when they came into our school, couldn't read or write. Some of them just couldn't.
But by the time they
By the
finished,
time they were done, one of the girls had one of the best results in my secondary school. It is unfair what is happening in northern Nigeria. It is unfair to put a whole generation of people and tell them how I am going to help you is that I'm going to
bring down the
you know, and you're not doing it. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's not about southern Nigeria. It's about the educational, mess that you're creating in your part of the world, because those kids, you're going to reap what you sow. As long as we allow these kids not to have an education, not to have hope, the drug abuse situation in northern Nigeria is getting really out of hand. There's a lot of frustration. And all because we're saying, oh, you cannot learn, let us give you pass marks. And the problem is that when those things were done, the assumption was that government will always be the biggest employer. So even if you had 10%, you're from the north, we're going to give you a job in the ministry. Those things don't exist anymore.
No.
Now people have to compete. And you come to the private sector, you can hardly find northerners working in the private sector. What have you done? What are you doing to our people who are from the north?
People are now looking back and say, no, if I have gold in my backyard, why must it be a cadastral office in Abuja that decides whether anybody can mine it? Yes. And there's some sense in it.
Yeah, of course.
Allow the states.
You don't use the faith identity as a reason to tolerate injustice by a member of your own faith against others.
Those who have money, or even the very average person, he tries every penny he has, sells his property, and he now says, okay, they've killed the universities here. A-levels aren't even good here. You send your children abroad. You are running a risk.
Seriously.
You are bringing up, children are being raised in an environment that's not your own cultural environment. So they are going to imbibe funny values.
And come back and you don't recognize your own children.
Exactly. Then what investment have you made for your old age? They are out there in that country. And when they see the goodies out there, many of them, they become so skewed, they don't even want to come back. So you are going to have another generation of
Nigerians who cannot relate with Nigeria.
Then successful parents, in quotes, their children have done well academically, and they are going to be left to live their old age in misery and loneliness.
What else, apart from investing in education, what must we do?
I think we need to have the right, a leadership, not just one person.
Yes, a leadership class.
A leadership class that is determined to change the fortune of this country around.
But that's a leadership class that are heavily invested in Nigeria, and they are not looking at building houses or buying houses in the UK or in Europe and settling their families in Europe or in Dubai or in, because you see, if you have a leadership class, some of who have dual citizenship, you have a leadership class that are not well invested here in terms of themselves and their families. So they see Nigeria as just a place to harvest resources and carry out, which is what it seems to be today.
No, sometimes it's not everybody in that leadership class would be doing that. Yes, but a lot of that is also going on. But what matters is really a determination on the leadership class to say, let's get back to the, let's build a bridge to the future Nigeria. Of our
How
dreams.
do we achieve that when today what you have among leaders
Yeah, starting as a minimum, with a minimum of what we enjoyed when we were growing up. At a minimum, let the average Nigerian child
have that?
that which we had. That you do not, your parents don't have to be rich, and you don't have to come from any highly positioned family to be educated.
That is pointing to free education, quality education at the elementary
it
level.
may not be free, but at least affordable, right? So, and then looking forward to saying, look at UAE, for instance. When you go to Dubai, you go to their museum, you see that they were poorer than Nigeria when Obasanjo was head of state the first time.
Yeah.
So, and at that, I remember, I don't know how true this is, that they even came to ask for loan from Nigeria, whether they got it or not. But within 30 years,
See what they did.
you could see from a peasant type economy, to what they are today. And oil, the contribution of oil to the economy is very small. I think it's less than 10%.
Tourism now is going to
Tourism has taken over. Nigerians go there in droves.
Yes.
And it's the leadership that decided this is the roadmap for the new UAE.
Good.
So I think we need a vibrant leadership class that has that kind of vision.
That is where my question is.
Yeah.
How do we get, because there are good Nigerians.
Oh, there are.
There are Nigerians that have this kind of vision you're talking about, but like we say, how do they get to power when some rascals have seized the reins of power and they are not ready to let go? And they are passing the baton to people like them, people for whom politics is their profession. And you can see, you can see that people become legislators. They go to House of Rep. From House of Rep, they go to Senate. From Senate, they become governor. From governor, they come back to Senate. So permanent. I mean, that is it. And they will do anything to keep that power. How do forward-looking Nigerians, and these are the kind of people who are like primitive feudal lords. They don't see it as a scandal that their children can be in the most expensive schools in the world, and that the children of the poor cannot go to school. Because for them, that's how fingers are not equal as far as they are concerned. That's how things are. How do we get people who have a vision of a better Nigeria into power?
Well, I think it's the voters, definitely. I mean, that can decide that money is not going to play a role in how I vote at the end of the day. And we pray that INEC allows the votes to count. To me, that's the
key.
The key. Because you can't change people the way they are. But the beauty of democracy is that the voters have a say. And to vote, you don't need anything apart from your permanent voter's card. And so it's really, what is it that would influence a voter? On what basis would the voter decide who to vote for? And that's where education comes in as well. The voter education. Voter education is key. Institutions and people like me and you, how do we educate the average voter to say, vote your conscience? And
vote your conscience, hoping that conscience is enlightened.
That it is, the conscience is actually is fed by what is right. That you want the right leadership, you want the right people in positions, And those right people will not give you money. I remember during the APC primaries, for instance, the Reverend gentleman, Pastor Tunde Bakari, did not get a single vote because he refused to give anybody money.
Any money.
But everybody knows he has capacity to be a good president. But he didn't induce anybody with money, and so he got 0 votes.
Now, what does that
That's
say?
the reality of our.
What does that
of our
say about
situation.
our reality and what hope for the future? If the people who, because the delegates are among the voters.
Exactly. And the delegates are representatives of the voters.
They are represented. So if what happened, the bazaar that happened in the various primaries that we saw recently, the bazaar in naira, bazaar in dollars, if that is the reality of today, do we have much hope for the future, for the immediate future?
Yeah, but I think, we still have hope. I mean, hope is really, when we don't have hope, then we are gone. Yeah, but I think, to me, I'm very hopeful. I mean, this is the only country I know, No matter where you go in the world, home is home.
Yes.
This is the place where you're actually regarded as a human being with all the full, aspects of being a human. So, but I think I'm still hopeful because Nigerians, even 4 years ago, are not Nigerians.
Today. So some things are changing.
Some things are changing. The awareness have actually snowballed into where PVC became, acquisition of PVC
for everybody.
Yes, people are. The number of Nigerians have gone to get
to register.
PVCs, to register.
So you are hopeful that
it's indicative that
things are changing.
Yes.
In the villages, though, you still have this horde of poor people who depend on rich politicians for their sustenance, and they just sing whatever tune that the politicians ask them to. I'm talking about the professional politicians.
Yes.
So in many villages, north to south, east to west, you have this horde of oppressed, hungry Nigerians who can't understand what you and I are talking about, but who follow some big political name up and down.
Yeah, and the key to that is that those people in the village are also related to people like me and you.
So, are you able to? Do you plan to go to Baza, for example, and spend some time to educate groups of people in your village about what they should be thinking of when they are deciding who to vote for? Are you able to do that?
My polling unit is in Baza.
Not just go there to vote, but do some political education.
Oh yes, of course. I mean, your immediate family, you need to tell them this is what we need in this country. These are the type of people we need as leaders, or these are the. And in some cases, if somebody gives you money, collect it, but vote the person you feel can emerge as the best leader that can give you the leadership this country or you deserve. And to me, so the influence, the thing about money, and thank God INEC has changed a lot of things in terms of
possibility of rigging.
Yeah, possibility of rigging, and even how somebody votes. Before, when you collect money, you feel like you're duty bound to vote for the person that gave you money. But I think now things have changed. You don't have to do that, and that's what what happened in Ondo State recently, for instance. To me it's a way forward in terms of it's not the richest candidate that wins.
Yeah. It's
really the person the people want. Based on what they believe would the dividends of the democracy that they will get from such a person.
Now, you have talked about leadership, those who get into politics and how we elect them. Do you see any critical role for people like you who have an idea of what society should be? You have a apart from growing up in a better Nigeria, you have also had the benefit of traveling out, schooling in Imperial College London, working in Houston, Texas. What role can you play? I mean, you retired, you are still strong and able-bodied. What roles can you play towards a better Nigeria? And people like you, people who have retired from corporate organizations, who know what a good organization should be like, what a good society should be like. I believe there's a lot that people like you can contribute to making a better Nigeria. What do you think?
Yeah, there is a lot we can contribute, but we need a platform. We need opportunities to contribute, apart from what we can do ourselves. Like my coming on this program is also, it's the kind of role I can play to create awareness that you do not have to be from a wealthy home. There's nothing big about what it takes to grow up in a village and then work for a corporate organization.
I am just imagining.
You can aspire. So you can aspire no matter your station,
your humble
beginnings.
Yeah, I'm just imagining the resources available in this country in people like you.
Yeah.
And then from oil companies, people retire before 60, generally.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah.
Many people retire before 60.
Yeah,
between 50 and 60, a lot of you retire.
Yes, exactly.
So, and then many of you are healthy and can still be there for the next 20, 30 years. And I'm saying, how are we using these resources? Because these are well-trained, very experienced people. And I don't think that...
I think the country has not really provided a platform to use, not just oil industry workers, bankers, teachers, retired professors, for instance. I mean, and so many professionals and people with vast knowledge and experience that could be harnessed.
Once upon a time, I wrote an article, I wrote a paper on local government system in Nigeria, and I was recommending that if politics is going to be revamped in this country to become the politics that will transform this country, then people like you should go back to your local government and be a councillor.
Yes.
Then people like that professor should go back to his local government and be councillor for education. You councillor for works. This person councillor for finance. This person who was bank manager goes to be councillor for finance in his local government. That by the time such people are able to return to their local governments, they will raise the level of politics.
Yes, or even head of schools.
Yes, or head schools.
Yeah.
Now they will raise. I mean, if I go to become headmaster in my local primary school, I will raise the quality and the level.
Yeah.
Can't we start thinking of that? And I'm not talking about waiting for government to organize it. I'm talking of network of people like us working on that. And
yeah, I mean, I'll give you a case in point. For a lot of retired professionals in the oil industry, they are ready and prepared to give back in the form of being visiting lecturers in universities. We have who are on the field, who understand.
So with a lot of experience.
With a lot of experience. And we want to go back to our alma maters, for instance, to give back. We want to give back in our villages. Like you said, even at the village level,
yes.
At the local government level.
Yes.
But like from where I come from, insecurity
is a problem.
Is a problem. And ditto for most parts of Nigeria these days.
So you end up remaining in the cities that are a little more.
And then in the cities, there is no real platform for retirees to apart from the associations that we belong to, that we can still attend and voice out what we think should be done. But how many of
maybe we could be thinking of something, in this direction.
Yeah.
So that how do you? Because I'm just thinking of you. I mentioned to you Engineer Joe Akinova.
Yes.
He has been highly involved in Luke's Terra. He's been part of us. He was part of our faculty for many years.
Yes.
And so on. How we can pull together those resources, like you said, retired corporate staff who have worked to management level with a lot of experience.
Yes.
Oil company workers, bank workers, and so on. Many who are retired,
workers, yeah.
ministry workers, civil servants who are retired at 60, for example,
Yeah.
and are still healthy up to 80.
Mm-hmm.
So those 20 years. And I hope you know that actually a research has come out that says that the most productive years in a person's life is between 70 and 80.
Yeah, I saw it with the 82-year-old that I just met in your
In my office,
Yes.
yeah. Between 70 and 80. That is the constellation of all the experiences in his life. That is when you can actually get the best. But unfortunately, we let them go and we're not following them up. We're not organizing them into anything.
Yeah, like in the US, for instance, you for our counterparts.
Yes.
You know,
They will be good teaching in universities.
not only that, they can work till when you don't want to work. There's no
age
jet
limit.
drop
Yes,
retirement
unless
age.
they are sick.
Yeah, unless they are sick. The official retirement age is probably 65,
Yes.
but there are people that are in their 70s still working.
Yes.
So you know, the government is a policy that
So
allows them to
once
still
again,
keep-
policy.
Yeah, so there has to be a change in policy. Why would somebody retire at 60 if he feels he can continue?
Yeah. I mean, you
Yeah,
see,
for instance,
life expectancy is changing.
Yeah.
We are living a little longer. Life expectancy is changing. Why would retirement remain static at 60?
Yeah, and it used to be 55, you know. In the 90s it was 55, then it became 60. But like you said, the life expectancy have changed.
Mm-hmm.
And then just when you have the experience, the
You have done all your trainings?
everything.
Yes.
Because during the course of your career, you're also trained.
Yes.
So you have all that knowledge. And then you get to 60 and they
So
say,
it's like a waste.
that's it. So, and Nigerians, I mean, Nigeria as a country paid for those things.
Yes.
Yeah, even if we worked for oil companies or banks or whatever it is where you worked, any corporate work.
The resources are from,
Yeah, it's Nigeria that's still.
I'm just imagining,
in a
I
way.
mean, I will be 65 this year.
Yeah.
And I'm just imagining my classmates that retired 5 years ago.
Yeah.
They retired 5 years
Yeah,
ago.
exactly.
And I'm just imagining the waste, because they're just some are doing some business for themselves, but they would have been contributing to nation building.
Yes, to nation building. Actually, it's after you retire that you now seek to contribute to nation building. You want to contribute in any way you can.
Because by then you are finished training your children you're finished training your children, and then you are not looking for so much money.
No,
it is now give back.
You want to give back. You want to give back, and but there's no avenue for that. There's no. I don't know of any government establishment that captures this wealth of experience.
Even the statistics capture the data.
Yeah, even the statistics. So and then again, when you look at the way our value system, the retired person in Nigeria is just a retiree. I mean, it's okay, he's retired, and then you're forgotten. Even the people that you helped, and the people that looked up to you while you were working.
Yes. They forget
most of them forget the average retiree.
Yeah. No. But that is the situation whereby, in the civil service, there is this problem of people who retired 30 years ago.
Yeah.
They are earning a percentage of what they were earning 30 years ago as retirement.
Exactly.
And then the person who retires today earns that percentage of what he's earning today. So you get two people who retired as directors.
Yeah.
One is earning 20,000 and the other is earning 300,000.
Yeah.
They both retired as directors.
Exactly.
And I'm asking myself, is that madness?
Yeah.
Is it a punishment for this person living long?
Yeah, and the reason is because the government again does not have policies, has not put in place policies to utilize the retiree and so incentivize the retiree.
I'm even talking of the
yeah.
injustice even.
Yes, because usually as compensation changes with the years, the retiree compensation is supposed to change.
It's supposed to
as
change.
well.
Yeah.
That's really the way it's supposed to work. It doesn't always work like that. So the person that retired 30 years ago as director should really be getting as close to what the person
because the person put in 35 years
Yeah.
before he retired 30 years ago. You put in 35 years and you're retired
Yeah.
today. Why should you earn more
Yeah.
than this person?
Yeah, there should be revision accordingly,
Yeah.
usually, but it's the burden, financial burden on government probably that has prevented, I don't know. But
then the people who are in government today, who are in those positions today, these are the people who employ them,
yes,
but they neglect them.
yeah, so the average retiree is not utilized the way they should be, especially in a country like ours, where the percentage of people with such experience and knowledge is very small compared to the general population, and the country needs those people.
Well, I mean, we would bring this discussion to an end. You have a lot of hope that things will change in Nigeria, and once again, we have been constantly talking about leadership in the home, the place of education, political leadership, and now we are ending up with what those who have experience and knowledge, people like you, others who have worked in places and especially at management level, what they can contribute back to society. I look forward to those who watch this program and who are in positions to begin to put on their thinking cap as to the resources that are available in this society, how we use them to advance this society. I have been speaking with Mr. Jerome James Tsakma, a retired geoscientist who was project manager with Mobile Producing Nigeria, a Nigerian branch of ExxonMobil International.
It's an affiliate of ExxonMobil.
Yeah. So it's been wonderful having you, and you are just beginning. You're going to be coming to the studio for us to discuss how this country can be better.
Yeah, and Nigeria can get to its rightful position in global economy.
With good leadership in a few years.
Yeah, and good leadership, good education,
yes.
Good educational policy, and great reduction in corrupt practices. That is key.
And security.
And then enhance security.
Yes.
Let Nigerians feel free to go wherever they want to go, to conduct their lawful businesses at any time. When I was growing up, what we feared were animals, hyenas.
Yes.
You could go around the village 24/7
Yes.
and not fear, any human being.
Yes.
It was hyenas and snakes that we feared. But today,
yeah. Thank you very much
situation,
for coming to the studio, and God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.